What's going on YouTube? So there are a ton of three-row crossovers available on the market today. However, the brand that brought you one of the very first crossovers has largely stayed out of the fray. But now that is no longer the case, with the Jeep jumping back in with the introduction of this all-new Grand Cherokee L. This not only expands the Grand Cherokee lineup to a three-row for the first time, but it also is the first of an all-new generation of Jeep SUVs coming in the next few months. But without wasting any time, let's go ahead and jump right into the review and see if this beats all the competition. So of course, Jeep has been around for a long time, and during that time, they've come up with basically an iconic design language. That means when you look at this brand new Grand Cherokee L, you're gonna see all those signature characteristics play out, but in a more modernized way than ever before. So with this new model, you're gonna have that signature 7-slat grille, just like every Jeep, but you'll notice everything is really narrowed down. That's going to give it a more aggressive look as well as make the vehicle look wider. And the same is also going to go over here to your headlights as well, which are very slim, full LED lights. This is going to be standard on every single trim level. Up top you have an LED turn signal, which also is your daytime running light as well. And then on the limited and above, which is the majority of the trim levels, those are also going to come with the LED fog lights. Now let's talk a little bit more about here in the front. Of course, this is the limited trim level. There's going to be a lot of different versions of this. I'm not going to talk about every single one of them, but if you choose the Summit, it's going to be real glitzy and shiny with a chrome mesh. If you choose the Overland, it's going to have a tougher look to it. And speaking of toughness and off-road ability, this actually comes with standard with 8.5 inches of ground clearance, and that's with the regular suspension. You can get an air suspension on this model, and that's going to bring it all the way up to a full 10.9 inches if you put it in its highest setting. Of course, having an air suspension is a very unusual thing to be available in this segment. Now again, this is a vehicle that ranges from about 40,000 to 70,000, so you're going to have a lot of different wheel options. You're going to start out with 18-inch alloys on your lower two trim levels. We have the optional 5-spoke alloy here on this limited trim level. I think these look really nice. Definitely a big fan of this design. And you can go all the way up to 21-inch alloys if you choose the Summit Reserve. And then taking a look here at the mirrors, very nicely put together. You'll notice the chrome comes from the door trim all the way over here in one seamless piece. As far as the technology on board, it's going to be heated with blind spot monitoring as standard equipment. And then auto dimming and power folding will come on the Overland and above. So here at the side of the Grand Cherokee L, you're probably noticing just how long this vehicle looks, and that's not just an illusion. This thing comes in at almost 205 inches in length, which is quite a bit longer than the average thing for this segment. It is still about 10 inches shorter than the Wagoneer, though, that will be coming out. But let's talk about the rear design of the all-new Grand Cherokee L. Once again, I'm a really big fan of the way this looks. This is probably one of the best looking vehicles in this segment. Jeep has done a lot to make this look rugged as well as classy. One of those cool elements is that the chrome trim from the side continues all the way around the vehicle to give it that nice cohesive look. And then dropping down to our taillights, these are going to be standard full LED taillights. The brake light, the reverse light, and the accenting are all LED. Then if we drop down below that, you'll notice this bumper area. On the limited, it is going to be a little bit more bland. However, if you go for the Overland trims or higher, that will throw in the exposed exhaust outlets. However, all of them are going to be able to tow more than the competition. So the V6 is rated at 6,200 pounds and the V8 is rated at 7,200 pounds of towing. Now, being a family vehicle, I'm pleased to say that Jeep has made safety systems very widely available. So you're going to get all of them as standard equipment unless you go for that very base model. That's going to be forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and auto high beams. And those auto high beams are going to be on all but the very base model. Now you can also get a night vision assistant as well as a highway drive assistant if you go for the very high-end Grand Cherokee L's. This one doesn't have it.
Well guys, that's all for the Grand Cherokee L's exterior design. Now let's go ahead and hop on the inside where your family will be before we take it out on a spin. And before we do all of that, please hit that subscribe button down below if you like cars or if you want to know more about them, because we have tons of automotive content.
So walking up to this brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee L, you will notice a brand new key fob for the brand. It has a nice square shape to it, simple and classy. You do also have remote start, standard on all but the base trim level, smart entry standard on all of the trim levels. Then of course, to get inside, just reach behind the handle, it will unlock. All right, so take a look at this brand new cabin. As you can see, it really brings the Jeep brand to a new level as far as premium design and materials are concerned. Now, speaking of materials, let's first talk about what you have in terms of material and color options. So the base Laredo, that's going to come standard with cloth seating. And then when you get to this limited trim level, that's going to throw in capri leather in your choice of black or this wicker beige option. Now, as you go up the trim levels, things get progressively more and more luxurious until you're basically at a luxury vehicle status. So you're going to have Napa leather with quilted bolsters on Overland and Summit. And then the top end Summit Reserve is the fanciest of all, and that's going to come with Palermo quilted leather in your choice of black or Tupelo colors. Now, turning over here to your door trim, this Limited is very nicely finished. We have real leather that runs across the armrest here with the stitching detail above it. You do have soft touch on the top part, and you have a really nice looking faux wood accent. The Limited trim level and above throws in 2-person memory seating, and then our front 2 windows are one-touch auto up and down. Now, taking a look here at the seats, these are 8-way power adjusting with 4-way lumbar support. You can even get massaging abilities if you go all the way up to the fully loaded model. And then, like I was saying, this is the capri leather. Very nice look to it. I like the color contrast stitching details as well. Yeah, so when you first get into this cabin, it really makes a positive first impression. This is a super premium looking space that looks a lot more like a luxury vehicle than something that competes in the mainstream segment. So across our upper dashboard, this is going to be finished in a soft touch plastic with a double stitching detail. As we move down below that, we have some leatherette trim, again with a double stitching detail, and more of this very realistic faux wood trim. Now, like I was saying, of course, when you go all the way up to the very expensive Summit models, that's going to throw in a real wood. You got your nice looking floating display. On the Limited, it is going to be hard to touch through here, but everything does fit together extremely nicely. Now start up, of course, put your foot on the brake and press the button. And right from the start, you'll notice a very nice new feature for the Grand Cherokee, and that's the fact that we have a 10.25-inch full digital gauge cluster, and this is actually thrown in across the board. So every single trim level of this L Grand Cherokee will have this. So you can use the steering wheel mounted controls to change the design significantly. As you can see, you can emphasize your speedometer and tachometer or the media. You can also press a separate button here and scroll between various different kinds of information. As you can see, everything's laid out in a very intuitive way with really nice and smooth graphics. Definitely a fan of this setup. Now, this particular model does not have the head-up display, but if you go up another level to the Overland, that is going to give you the ability to purchase a head-up display. Now, pulling back here to the steering wheel, very big fan of this new design from Jeep. As you can see, it is fully leather wrapped, of course. You have this silver accent that runs along the bottom area. We do have wood trim that runs through here and the Jeep logo. As far as the wheel itself, it is going to be manual tilt and telescoping on the lower trim levels. Overland and above, it's power tilt and telescoping, and then it is heated starting on this Limited trim level. Alright, but now it is time to go ahead and check the interior storage, which of course is super important for a family crossover. So we'll start out with, underneath our center console, we do have a 2-tiered setup, so this top part is just a small felt lined area for your small valuables. Then below that we have the rest of our storage. As you can see, this is pretty deep. Goes down quite a ways. There's a belt lining down there at the bottom. And you know what time it is. It's time to test out the giant stack of coupons, see how they fit. They fit just fine, plenty of room to spare. Now up in front of that we have our 2 cup holders. And then up in the very front here we do have a very nicely sized storage bin. This again has kind of a 2-tiered setup. You can get a wireless phone charging pad in here as an option. And then you've got 4 USB ports and a 12-volt outlet. This does also cover up with that nice cover there. Okay, now pulling back here to the shifter, we have a really nice looking rotary shifter just mounted right here out in the open. Of course, you're just going to twist over to go into drive. Jeep does throw in these small paddle shifters up at the top of the steering wheel. Of course, below that you have your audio controls like typical with Jeep products. And then twisting into reverse, you're going to notice a very large and nice looking backup camera, which does include active trajectory, rear parking sensors, and the ability to zoom in. Of course, as you'd expect, the higher end models will come with a 360-degree camera option. You can also option that on to this limited trim level if that's something you want. Of course, right next to that you do have your drive mode controller. When you make those adjustments, you do have a little animation that shows up there on the display. And then let's move on up the console here to our climate controls as the next thing. So this console here, you have a lot of different functions for your climate, all physically laid out. This, of course, is for your fan speed. You adjust your temperature right here. When you make those adjustments, they just show up in the main display there. This is going to be a 3-zone automatic climate control as standard equipment. You can actually get a 4-zone automatic climate setup on the Overland and the Summit models. And then all but the very base model will throw in the 3-stage heated seats. The Overland and above will throw in 3-stage ventilation as well. Now you also notice mixed right into this panel is your audio controls. So the standard system is 6 speakers on this model. We have the optional 506 watt 9-speaker Alpine sound system on board with this model. So we'll go ahead and give that a sample right now. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is very nice. I definitely appreciate that the Alpine system is made available even on your lower trim models. And you can go all the way out with this and go up to a 950 watt 19 speaker Macintosh sound system. So you really have a lot of different options with this Grand Cherokee as far as audio is concerned. Now let's take a look next at this main display. So you notice it has that really cool floating design. There's going to be 2 different sizes, so most of the models will come standard with an 8.4 inch display, but on pretty much all of them you can choose to upgrade to the 10.1 inch display. That's what we have on board right here. Either way, it's going to be running the brand new Uconnect 5 system, which is going to give you all the newest abilities. What we have on board right now, as you can see, is Android Auto. And this is going to be running wirelessly. That's one of the new features of this system is wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. Now if I tap that, that's going to take me back to the main Uconnect system. I've still got my home display. I have a built-in navigation system as well. So that's what that looks like. As you can see, really nice graphics, good responsive performance as well. And you can control your climate as well as different apps and vehicle settings right inside of this system. And now that I'm on this page, this would be a good time to mention a kind of cool feature that's come over from the Pacifica minivan, and that is the Fam Cam. I really like the naming scheme of that. But as you can see, you can actually go through with basically a security system, monitor your kids, and then tap on the individual seats to zoom in on them. Really, definitely a cool feature for a person with a big family and kids on all 3 different seating rows. This is going to be thrown in with the panoramic sunroof, which, as I mentioned that, I might as well come up here and take a look at it. So this is what the panoramic sunroof looks like. This is going to be standard on the Overland and above, optional on this limited trim level. And then the base Laredo trim level, that will come without a moonroof, but with the option of getting a standard size moonroof. Now I'll turn our attention back over here. We do have a manual dimming mirror on this particular limited trim level, but we still have the HomeLink universal remotes right there on the visor.
Well guys, welcome to the all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee L's rear seat. Now, of course, this is a family vehicle first and foremost, so the rear seat area is an incredibly important part of anything in this segment. So let's talk about the space first. We have 39 inches of legroom, 40 inches of headroom, which does place it above the Ford Explorer. It is still a little bit less than the Kia Telluride, but overall, lots of space. I can slide the seat forward and back as well as recline it, and behind rear seating position, I have, I would say, a solid 9 to 10 inches of legroom, and my feet can slide up underneath the seat. Now, turning our attention towards the features, they have also thrown in quite a few of those. So we do have standard climate controls right here in the center. That's a nice touch. Then if we drop below that, we have 3-stage heated rear seats. It's going to be standard on the limited trim and above. You can also get ventilation if you go for that top-end Summit Reserve trim level. Down below that, we have our vents here in the center. We also have vents in the B-pillar. And then further below that, we have a ton of connections. So we have a power outlet, a household-style outlet, 2 USB Type-Cs, 2 smart charging USBs, and then we also have built-in cup holders here in the floor. But the reason you buy the L is, of course, for the third row. So let's go ahead and hop back here and see how that is. So in order to get back, you just pull this little lever. When you do, it folds the seat up and out of the way. So this is one of the easiest ways to get back here, and it also makes for a quite large opening for us to walk back. Now, getting into the third row itself, the space is going to be rated at 30 inches of legroom. So this is a little bit behind something like a Kia Telluride and Ford Explorer, but I mean, overall, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. So I have about 1.5 inches of legroom to spare, and this seat is slid all the way back, and my toes can fit underneath of the seat. The thigh support isn't the best in the entire segment, but it is perfectly fine. And then off to the side, we have a cup holder, 2 USB ports on each side, and we also have vents integrated into this pillar. Coming up to the tailgate, it is going to be power if you go for at least this limited trim, and then it's also hands-free if you go for the Overland trim and above. Now let's talk about the space though. So as you can tell, this is right on par with that of the entire segment when it comes to second and third row space. That's also going to carry through to the cargo area, since we have 17 cubic feet behind the third row seats. That expands to 47 cubic feet if you fold them down, and it goes all the way up to 85 cubic feet as a maximum. That does best the Toyota Highlander, however, still a little bit less than Telluride and Explorer. Now, as far as how they finished it, it is finished very nicely back here. So we have a carpeting along the floor, and if we lift that up, there is additional storage up underneath it there. The third row itself is going to be manually folding on this model, and then off to the side we do have some LED lighting, and then our button to shut the trunk lid. And it also looks like we have a 12-volt outlet here on the right side. Your passenger seat is going to be power adjusting, and we do even still have the 4-way power lumbar support. And if we pop open the glove box, now of course this is a family vehicle, so you're going to have a lot of kids to feed. So you need the coupons, and they do fit in here just fine. This glove box is, I'd say, probably one of the smallest ones in the segment. It's pretty narrow and not very deep, but fits in our coupons just fine, so it still passes the test. And then up top, we have a really large sun visor. We have LED lighting as well as a mirror, and we can detach it and extend.
All right, and just as quick as that, we are up to 60 miles per hour with this new Grand Cherokee L. So, as far as the powertrain situation with this new model, it's going to be very similar to the Dodge Durango that we drove. So you've got the same two engines. So you've got the Pentastar 3.6 liter V6 engine. That's going to be on pretty much all of the trim levels, and it's going to be making 293 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. As you can see, that is plenty of power to get this up and moving quickly, and pretty much right in line with what the competition is going to offer as well.
Now, the wonderful thing about Jeep, though, is that they do also give you lots of options. So they are going to give you the 5.7-liter Hemi V8 option. So if you really want that V8 growl, which I'm sure a lot of you guys might like, you can get that. That's going to have 360 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. And that is optional on the Summit Reserve.
Yeah, even when you accelerate at a more gingerly pace, this still feels plenty powerful.
Yeah.
Let's also talk about the transmission. So what we have is an 8-speed automatic transmission, again on all the versions, and this does a really good job. It's nice and smooth. Obviously, as you can see, if you put your foot down, you get immediate response. So I really like that. Definitely a nice responsive transmission that's going to keep you right in your power band. As far as your drivetrain situation, this is actually a rear drive based platform for this new model, so that does stand out from many of the front wheel drive based competition. So you have rear drive as standard, and then you have 3 different 4-wheel drive systems depending on the different trim levels. I won't go into all of the details right now, but you do have, of course, that selection on every single one of them, because this is a Jeep after all. You gotta have 4-wheel drive.
But even though this is a Jeep, it is also a family 3-row. So this goes against, some of the most comfortable vehicles you can buy, the Toyota Highlander, the, Honda Pilot. All of those vehicles are extremely comfortable, and I'm also just really enjoying how this vehicle rides. It really soaks up the bumps extremely well. I wouldn't say this is quite as comfortable as something like a Honda Pilot or a Toyota Highlander, but this is certainly very, very, very comfortable. And it's also very quiet inside of this cabin as well. So we'll get a sound level reading so we can compare to some of the rivals here. We're looking at 56.7 decibels, which I believe that is right on par with what you're going to expect out of the competition.
And if you don't remember me mentioning it on the outside, this has the incredibly rare option of getting an air suspension if you're going to choose one of the top-end models. So, of course, that's going to change things as well. If you select that, you're going to have the height adjustment, the adaptive dampers, so that you're going to have an even smoother ride, more sophisticated. Those upper end trim levels really kind of go toe in toe with luxury vehicles, whereas these lower trim levels like this Limited, this really matches up nicely with like a fully loaded version of many of the competitors we've been talking about today. And let's talk about today's Slam Dunk and Airball. So for the Slam Dunk, we have a pretty broad idea, but to us, I think it's the design inside and out.
Yeah.
This is just a very premium, very sophisticated looking vehicle. It definitely has that premium vibe that really makes you just feel like you're in a luxury vehicle, frankly. And it really just stands out in this segment with among the best rivals for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the Airball, we are going to say it's going to be the price. We're not incredibly offended by the price tag of this car now, because we understand that it can compete really in the 2 segments. We're in the second from base trim level, and this one, as equipped, is coming in a touch over $53,000 with the Limited trim. But let me just go ahead and read you off the prices for the other ones. It starts at $36,900. And then depending on which trim levels you go on to, it can go all the way up to $65,290 as the starting price for the Summit Reserve with the V8.
Yeah, there can be a few options that can get you up to about $70,000.
So this vehicle is very expensive, and especially in its top end trims, and you are missing out like on this one. Something worth noting is like ventilated seats are not on this model, whereas like a fully loaded Highlander Platinum or a Telluride is going to go ahead and throw that in at this price. And as far as the fuel economy is concerned, the V6 rear drive is going to be rated at 21 combined. If you go for four-wheel drive, it's actually going to be that same 21 combined. Few less in the city and highway though, and then the V8 is going to, of course, suck a little bit more gas at 17 miles a gallon combined.
But all in all, I have to say, very impressed by this new Grand Cherokee L. This has always been such a popular vehicle for Jeep, the Grand Cherokee lineup. Now, of course, we don't have the 2-row yet, but I hope that it shares the same stuff with this 3-row, because this is a very impressive product. The all-new platform, all of this technology and luxury inside the cabin, as well as, like we said, the ability to be in two different spectrums. You can have the mainstream version. You can go all the way up to like a fully loaded luxury level of equipment that is really unrivaled by anything. So this is just really a very impressive range of products.
Well, guys, that's it for this in-depth review of the all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Limited. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful, be sure to help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below. It's completely free, and if you have any interest in cars at all, we have tons and tons of automotive content. We have YouTube Shorts, we have all types of things, comparisons, full reviews, so please go ahead and subscribe. I promise that you won't regret it. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.